I set up a commando unit. An elite smash-and-grab team working behind enemy lines.
Hello, welcome to Premier Scene. I'm Claire Bueno and we are off to interview the delightful Danny Dyer, who's promoting his new film, Age of Heroes, based on the real-life events of Ian Fleming's 30 Commando, the template for the modern-day SAS.
Officially, you won't even exist. You're the first of a new breed.
So, Danny, Age of Heroes, incredible story.
Yeah.
Can't believe it's just coming to the screen now.
Well, I mean, you know, he's a fascinating character anyway, wasn't he, Ian Fleming? You know, a real talented man, you know, with so many talents. And, you know, the idea that he put, you know, this elite group of commandos together, which was unproven back in them days, you know, like a smash and grab sort of unit to go behind enemy lines and retrieve this really important German sort of technology. You know, that was the basics of the film, you know, and that's what I love about it. This is why it appealed to me, because it's like, there's no bollocks, there's no, it's not Americanized in any way. It's just about the idea that these soldiers go out there, you know, crack on, get this technology, iron out a few Nazis and get back to Blighty, you know. Simple as that, you know. You know, and I think James Darcy, who plays Fleming, he does a really good job, you know. He's a bit camp in it, but I think that in my head I'm feeling that Fleming could be a bit camp.
Yeah. I mean, did you feel as well that you had more sort of respect for the script and as well the character that you're playing because of it's based on truth?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I've always wanted to be part of something like this. I mean, I've always been fascinated by the idea of, you know, men and women that, you know, that want to go and become soldiers and put their life on the line every single day. You know, you've got to have that in you from a young age, you know. It just fascinates me that they would, you know, to earn a pound note, there's so many careers you can take. Thank God we've got people like that. What would we do otherwise? You know, and I think that obviously the war that we're fighting at the moment, that when's it going to end? You know, and especially what they're going through at the moment, because what is your enemy? You know, it's not like the old school then, you know, when you're standing up and you're having firefights and stuff like that. It's about, you know, these little snaky little bombs that they're, IEDs that they're treading on, and suicide bombers and kids with bombs strapped to them running, you know, it's like, for me, it just freaks me out. It frightens the life out of me, you know? I
think as well, because you're an actor that is so connected with the youth culture, it's great for you to be able to be in a film like this, because then it's bringing this story to a new generation, otherwise it gets forgotten. And
that's why I was really proud of it as well, because I can actually sit there with my granddad and watch it, and, you know, he's going to love it, you know? He's probably going to pull me up on a few things.
Morning, gentlemen. Just have you on board. Do you want to see some action?
Yes, Sergeant!
Gentlemen, you are in for one big surprise.
Operation Grendel.
The good thing with this film is boys and toys, and men must love that. What was that like, working with the weapons and the training?
I loved it, you know, and you're running around with your machine gun, and, you know, it's just, it is. It's all boys running together, running around playing armies. You know, it's just with the added bonus of having real Marines who, you know, because it's part of the Help for Heroes charity, we got there's a lot of injured soldiers that can't fight anymore. You know, like there was one guy who'd lost an eye and another guy who'd been shot through the jaw, and so they were playing the Nazis and they were the real deal. So you can imagine they took the piss out of us constantly. You know, you're on the poster, and then you've got, you know, these group of Ponzi actors on the front, you know, mincing around with their machine guns, you know. But they pulled us up. Listen, if we had a question to ask, they was really willing to help us out. But we were stuck up in the mountains in Norway, mate. So you can imagine the fucking debauchery and just, you know, the conversation that was drunk. And I behaved myself because I got the lead role, and I knew I do not want a hangover at, you know, -20, trying to climb up a mountain. You know, it's bad enough anyway. But so I actually took a bit of a step back. Obviously, I had a bit of a drink with them, but. You know, there was a lot of, you know, men running about naked and, you know, winding each other up. There was a thing that they was doing, these soldiers, called stealth bumming. So what they would do is that they'd come up behind you without you knowing, and they would pretend to bum you, and then they would take a photo of it. So I got stealth bummed a few times. I had to accept it. You know, it's like, for fuck's sake, you just couldn't take your eye off them for 1 second.
It's all about camaraderie, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, which I suppose is what it's about, isn't it? It's about all that coming together and relying on someone to protect you. You know, you've got to remember, you know, your life's on the line, so you've got to really bond, you know. And
well, they're talking about the bonding. Did you work with your fellow actors when you trained, and then did that reflect how you all bonded on set? And
not really, because we didn't have the time, so we did the whole weapons thing, and that was when we sort of all met for the first time. I mean, I knew Shawn because I worked with him before, but, you know, that was our chance to get to know each other. Oh, hello, yeah, boom, I'm John, I'm Danny, boom. And then once we got out there, and that was when we sort of, we had to all learn as the process went on, really. You know, and that's why some of the montage of us training, you know, I was fucked. I was like bits in some of it, you know, it was like really tough.
you could see, actually.
You know, and which worked for the film, of course, you know. I suppose in them days they were all smoking like a trooper, weren't they, really? It wasn't like it is now with fitness tests and stuff like that. So again, that's why I love the title, Age of Heroes, because that's what it was. It was about spirit and heart, putting yourself in these, you know, situations and having to deal with it.
This raid and its success will define all future operations. Any questions?
Opposition.
General Dietl's 5th Alpine Division.
Are they any good, sir?
Yes, very.
So are we.
Do you think there's got to be a certain mindset that these soldiers have, and, you know, to go out and into battle like they did? And how did you prepare for your part?
Yeah,
mentally?
I think you've definitely got to have some sort of mindset. You have to switch off at some point, which sort of, it's got to come out somewhere later on. You've got to grieve at some point, you know, because we are all human beings at the end of the day. They're not robots. And that's the part of the film that really, of the character, I suppose, I was really the most interested in. Obviously, I was really on the ball with the subtle things about how you're running, how you hold your gun, you know, you wouldn't keep your finger over the trigger and them little things, but just that mentality of, and that's why towards the end of the film, you know, I give up in a way. I've had enough of just watching death, and, you know, I just think, you know what, I can't bear it anymore, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there is real character development, isn't there, for you in this film?
Yeah, because I start off obviously as being a good soldier, and, you know, heart's in the right place, but I'd struggle with the idea of discipline. I struggle with the idea of some posh officer, you know, telling me what to do, you know, and I need that, which is why Sean Bean's character is so important for me in it. You know, he's the father figure to me. He's the one that gives me a shot, you know, and sees something in me that nobody else does, and I don't let him down. You know, that's the key. You know, I'm sort of doing it for him more than anything.
There are some really powerful scenes between you and Shawn, aren't there? Can you explain a little bit more about those?
Well, the way Shawn works is he's quite shy, you know, and he keeps himself to himself. You know, I suppose he's been in the game too long to, you know, get involved with all the bollocks, really. But so it was good because we never really discussed it. We just come together on the day. The dialogue was all there, especially with the beasting, when I'm getting beasting and stuff. You know, and we would just go at each other, you know, which is, I think, the best way to do it. I think if you start thinking about it too much and it's too rehearsed, it loses something, you know.
There are people in Whitehall who want your head.
I won't let you down.
No, you won't.
We are masters of our own fate.
I think it's very important to say that this film has been made practically. There are no big special effects done onto the computer. No,
and I'll be honest, in the trailer, I think they've used every fucking explosion and every bullet that's shot, you know what I mean? We had a bit of an issue because of the money thing, where it was like, I think it was like £4 a blank. So we had to really use the blanks, like, sparingly, and I thought, we're making a fucking war film, you know? So we had to have these guns that were gas cylinder things that made a little noise, and you had to pretend to get the recoil off them. That, I mean, that was quite frustrating, you know what I mean? Because it's like, come on, man, for fuck's sake, you know, put the budget in the right place, you know, at least have a few blanks. But they were counting the blanks off and going, right, bump, 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 oh God, oh, maybe we should leave the blanks today and all that. And as an actor, it's frustrating because you're trying to get into it and make it believable, and you're running around with a fucking water pistol. You know, it's just, getting that balance right was pretty tough, you know. But yeah, there's no tricks or gimmicks really, to be honest. It is, you know, it is what it is, and I'm so proud of it. I really am.
Did you meet any other sort of war veterans?
Never met the actual veterans, but I'd met, you know, quite a few people that you know, that were active very recently. You know, still still in that mindset in a way. I'd love to have met a few veterans, to be honest with you. One of the strangest things about this job as well is the documentary the making of was done by Vernon Kay.
Oh, really?
Who's fascinated with war and all this sort of stuff, and so we had him following us about the camera, which is fucking weird. The Family Fortunes geezer, you know, the game show host, you know, who's now, you know, following me around with a camera asking me questions, you know. But you know, and it didn't work out because when we were shooting it, it was at the time of the volcanic ash thing, and we was in Norway, and this was in Iceland, obviously. So he flew home, and he was going to come back out, and he couldn't get out, and so he missed the whole chunk of it, unfortunately. Because I was really intrigued to see what sort of documentary he was going to make, the making of, you know. But no, it didn't work out.
The director as well wrote the script. What's it like working with a director that does write the script? Does that help you, or do they become more sort of possessive over their part, or do they allow you to elaborate, really?
It really does. It depends on the geezer, really. Some people are really precious about it. Some, you know, such good writers that you never even question it. It's just on the page and it rolls off the tongue. And others are quite free and say, you know what, listen, this is a guideline. You know, I've cast you for a reason. You know, I'll trust you to, you know, bring something else to the part. And Adrian was definitely, you know, one of those in between, you know, it's on the page really, and giving us the freedom to ad-lib and do what we wanted to do, really. He was a real good leader of the pack, I must say. It was a tough gig for him. It was only his second job he's ever directed. He did a movie called The Crew before that, and it was a big ask. It was a big ask for the money and the time and the location for us to pull it off. And he's done a fucking amazing job. I love him.
How has this affected you, making this film, if you reflect back on it? Has it had an effect on you?
It did for a little while after, but I mean, obviously I made it over a year ago. It's just the mad thing about the business, I mean, you know, you get part of something, you all come together as a team, and you know, you've got this vision and this goal, and it's tough, and you're living in each other's pockets, and then it just stops, and you all go back to your lives, you know, and you don't see each other. And then it comes out a year later, and you've got to try and get back into it, you know, and go, well, oh yeah, fuck, yeah. You know, so it's quite a mad process, you know. Obviously, I watched it recently, and you know, the memories instantly come back, and I just remember really being so cold for 6 weeks, but not being allowed to moan about it because you're surrounded by proper Marines. You know what I mean? So how the fuck can you moan? You know, when you're surrounded by men's men.
I think the important thing as well to say with this film is that it's set up for what is the SAS today, isn't it? And this did change the way World
apparently,
War II
yeah,
ended.
you know, for sure. You know, it was these little elite groups of men that they put together that you know, I mean, I don't know the actual facts for it, and it's quite, you know, you need to be on the ball with that sort of dialogue, you know, but I do believe, yeah, it started it off, you know, it was that they was the first sort of commando unit, you know, which did go on to the SAS, you know. So in a way, I was one of the first SAS.
And with honor comes duty and sacrifice.
God forgive me.
Well, the 30 Commando motto was attained by surprise, and we weren't surprised to find that Danny Dyer was a thoroughly spiffing chap. I'm Claire Bueno, and you're watching Premier Scene.